All right, welcome to the Armchair Commanders podcast. My name is John,
And I'm Jack.
and this week we are discussing Peter Berg's Lone Survivors starring Mark Wahlberg,
Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch, you mean?
right? So, as we always start, what'd you think, Jack?
Man, I kind of forgot that ginger kid they haze in the beginning dies. Keep
Well,
in
that's kind
mind,
of the
I have seen this movie. Our dear listeners, I have seen this movie, but that was 10 years ago. I went and saw it in theaters with my beloved co-host John.
yeah. We saw it like a week or two after it came out.
Yeah, man, those are the days when we just damn it, Rangers lead the Twins. Those are the days when we would just be chilling in the dorms. And then one of us would be like, "Hey, this movie's in town. Let's go." And we would just do it.
I think for that one we actually like drove over to Yankton for.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I think so. Because it
Because
was
we
in
did
that
that.
it was in that shitty mall.
Oh God. Yeah, yes, the Yankton Mall. I swear, like for those of you that haven't been to the Yankton Mall, I swear to God, that's like the edge of the known universe. Just a, it feels like I'm in an ancient ruins of a long forgotten civilization, but I'm doing something mundane instead of like taking artifacts and dodging booby traps. I'm just seeing a movie.
I always like to think of the Yankton Mall as like the post-apocalyptic, like what was it like the Dawn of the Dead remake where they all hide out in the mall? That's the Yankton Mall.
I didn't see the Dawn of the Dead remake.
It's fine, but minus the like places to eat though.
Well, there's like one place to eat, wasn't there?
I honestly, it's been so long I don't remember.
Ah, but however, yeah, that the scene in question where they make him do a dance and publicly humiliate him, and then they make him recite that poem about being a Navy SEAL. Yeah, that's the scene that stuck out to me in my memory the most. And I guess I didn't catch it the first time that guy dies.
Well, that's kind of the whole premise of this movie is that everybody dies.
Well, yes, I understand that, but
If you couldn't catch that from the title of
no,
the
like
movie,
you see what I'm saying though? Like, yes, I get everyone in his little squad dies in their little excursion, but I didn't catch that ginger kid going into the aircraft and getting blown up. But anyway, uh, oh yeah, and the other scene that stuck out to me is that very visceral scene of them falling down the mountain, and I do remember like somebody even stifling a laugh at the end of that when he like lands back first onto a tree.
that was that is an intense scene, but you gotta admit it is a little comical. I mean, it's the reason why slapstick works.
Yeah, I just don't know why the director edited it in all those cartoonish sound like bonk, like like it was an Ed and Eddie episode.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, most of the guys in that scene did their own stunts, and uh, most of them walked away with like cracked ribs and like some serious injuries from shooting that scene. Which I mean, props to them if they actually went through and you know like suffered that fall.
Hope they got paid.
Well, you know, Marky Mark got paid a lot, so
Oh yeah, he was he was making that 90s rapper turn 2010s actor money.
I want to know what it is like. Why is Peter Berg and Mark Wahlberg got like such a hard on for each other?
Because they're homies. I don't know, man. I guess he's a really big fan of Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch.
It's just
I really got to stop bringing that up.
it like don't get me wrong, I greatly enjoyed this movie, and I've greatly enjoyed other movies featuring Mark Wahlberg, and that has been uh, directed by Peter Berg. If I'm not mistaken, they also did Patriots Day together, which was about the Boston bombing, and then they also did um, the Deepwater Horizon movie as well.
Oh, yeah, I vaguely remember that one. I remember thinking it was weird how quickly they churned that one out.
Yeah, it's like Michael Bay is made fun of for having his own particular style. I think Peter Berg is very much the same way, where he produces a very specific type of film, and he has a couple of go-to actors, and like even if you don't know anything about the story, you more or less know what you're signing up for before you go into the movie. Like you're going to get some like motivational, like America fuck yeah type film, and you're going to get Mark Wahlberg shooting at people or
Yep.
being some sort of hero.
I remember reading somewhere that this movie is a good example of how even high-level D&D characters can face their match. And I guess they also show this in the movie by showing the grueling training the Navy SEALs go through for in the intro credits. And also there's that scene of these big burly Navy SEALs like trudging up the mountain. And then while at the same time the kid they captured and cut loose is just racing down the mountain and gliding down it pretty much. And one of
That's
them
one of
even says,
my.
How did they catch us so fast?
That's because they live there. They're used to the mountains.
Yeah. Home field advantage, man.
It's kind of like when they sent the old man with the message. They're like, really? We're sending the 70-year-old dude with the super important message. Like, hope he doesn't have a heart attack on the way over.
Man, I wish there were translations to what they were saying. Or
I kind of appreciated not having the translations for the Afghan people
there were some.
because, I mean, yeah, there was some, but the moments that they didn't, like, it kept you in the loop or the perspective of Marcus Luttrell, who was the guy who survived this operation. He doesn't speak the local dialects, so in those scenes where we're just as confused as he is because he's like, "What the fuck are you saying?" So that was one technique that I did appreciate. I wish they had stuck to it like completely, but I get the diversion occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about you, but I kind of also found it interesting. Slight change in topic, but you mentioned the beginning of this movie starts off with footage of like Navy SEAL training, and it's from a pretty well known documentary. It was like a 6 or 7 part series from the early 2000s. Um, if I'm not mistaken, that particular documentary was actually filmed like it was like one or two classes before or after Marcus Luttrell actually went through his own Navy SEAL training. So it's like really closely linked to him as well.
Yeah.
Um, but I found it interesting that for a war movie about Afghanistan and America's involvement in it, like we don't mention 9/11. We don't mention, you know, it's not a topic of discussion in the film, like why we're here. I mean, the most we really dig into like motivations for the SEAL team is literally this one mission. We are going after this one guy because he has killed other U.S. soldiers in this area. Um, with that opening training sequence, and with like the overtone of like the background speaking of like it's the it's setting the tone for this film to be much more survival or overcoming adversity as the main theme, and not a like look at our brave, whatever, like in the fight against terrorism. It's it's definitely more of a camaraderie and survival type film.
Yeah. Ah, and I can think of no better survival setting than 2000s Afghanistan. Well, of course, maybe 2020's Afghanistan.
Is
Sorry, too
Afghanistan,
soon.
is it still a country? I don't remember.
Afghanistan, yes, it's still a country. It's just called something different now. I actually looked this up earlier.
Oh, they actually like Afghanistan renamed itself.
Hold on. Officially the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan now.
Okay, it's still Afghanistan.
Yeah,
Like they just added some honorific titles to it.
I don't remember what they were called before, but it definitely wasn't that.
I always found it funny. Like, obviously, there's a whole conversation around the whole U.S. exit of Afghanistan, but the one thing I found hilarious around that situation, not the obvious like terrible, you know, refugee status and all that stuff, um, but the Afghan government apparently held a large amount of its treasury with us. And when the democratic Afghan government fell and the Taliban took over, the US was like, yeah, we don't recognize the Taliban as a legitimate government, so we're just going to hold on to this.
Yeah, that whole thing has been interesting to watch unfold.
It's it's definitely interesting to think that, obviously a big part around that crisis was the the taking in of refugees, people who are trying to leave because they didn't want to be under Taliban rule. Um, one of the big characters in this movie, his name is Gulab. He's a real person, and he's credited with the reason why Marcus Luttrell survived this entire ordeal. Um, Apparently, it took, even with the amount of help that he provided to Marcus Luttrell and like the great service that he did, it still took like years for him to immigrate to America. I mean, he lives in Texas now, but it was still even like a long and arduous process for someone like him
Mhm.
who helped in the way that he did. So I couldn't even imagine how difficult it would be for somebody who's just trying to leave because they're like, this is a shitty situation. I don't want to be here.
Do you know the name of the village that he found himself at?
Not off the top of my head, I don't remember.
Mm.
It, I think it was
You,
somewhere in the Korangal Valley, but
mm. You do, or you have read the book, right?
yeah, I was
Mm.
I was a big fan of the book when it came out. Um, I read it like two or three times in high school.
Nice. Mm. You already know what I'm going to ask, but what are the major differences between the film and the book that you remember?
Uh, there's quite a few actually. You know, the book is a little more autobiographical of Marcus Luttrell because it starts with him like from childhood, then go like he talks about going through his SEAL training, and then his experience in Afghanistan. His book also includes something that I think this film really could have used or I would have appreciated, which is, when this operation happened, it was a major news story because, I forgot the exact number, but it was like 20 or 30 individuals from the special operations community died in one day. So it was like CNN, Fox News level uh, story. And the way that this film portrays it is it makes it looks like it's 1 or 2 days, but it was longer than that in the book if I remember correctly. Like it was multiple or quite a few days before he actually got rescued. But one of the things that he discussed in his book was what his family went through for that, like those few days or the week that he was missing. Because there was a lot of people who presumed him to be dead, but he was still unaccounted for. Um, and it talks about like what his mom went through, and he actually has a twin brother who is also a Navy SEAL, and it talks about what his brother went through as somebody who was also a part of that special operations community, but who was stateside while it happened. Um, I definitely would have liked to have seen that. Um, I think it could have added a lot to this film. I understand why it wasn't added because this film is very much focused on just telling the story of this battle and of Marx's survival. But it definitely could have imp- added quite a bit of depth to it.
Mhm. And I didn't actually know he had a twin brother until today when I looked this up.
Yeah, if I'm
He's
not
like a,
mistaken, his brother's running for Congress now, or did run for Congress. I don't remember.
I think he's currently, shit, some politician in Texas now.
Yeah. The other big difference, and it's kind of a high point of contention, is the amount of Taliban fighters that we see. Um, and the numbers are honestly kind of all over the place because you have one analyst who I think he was like a Marine Corps analyst or something who had spent a lot of time in Afghanistan, who was part of the investigation or whatever, and he put the numbers at like a dozen Taliban fighters. Um, Michael Murphy's Medal of Honors report or citation puts it at like 40 or 50 fighters. And then I think the book put it at like 200 fighters. So
Hmm.
there's there never was and there never is going to be a way to truly be able to tell 100% what the size disparity in forces was. But I mean, even on the lowest end of that spectrum, they were still outnumbered. If you think
Hmm.
a 12v4 fight is still, a 3-to-1 battle. Um, if we're just going by personal opinion, I think probably the Medal of Honor citation is the most correct or probably the most feasible one or the most likely. That like 40 to 50 number. But
Yeah,
um
I just got to that about the whole controversy with the number of combatants. It's a big who knows, and at the end of the day, does it really matter?
not really. I mean yes and no. Um Obviously, when the book came out and when you read like 200 versus 4 battle, you're like, holy shit, this is a hardcore battle. But I mean, even with a 50 against 4 battle, that's still like it's it's important in the matter of storytelling, but at the end of the day, the most important thing I think to recognize is that these guys were outnumbered and were not fighting on their home turf. And, they still put up a very impressive and, courageous fight. And I think that's the most important takeaway from both the book and the film.
Yeah, man. Yeah, this movie was brutal.
Yeah, it was very graphic. The one that really got me was when Danny Dietz got his hand shot or got like his finger blown off. I
Yeah,
was like, ah, like that was one of those moments where you just think about what that would have felt like, and it just makes your skin crawl.
I have an idea on what losing a phalange feels like.
Oh, do you now?
I do. You've seen my foot, man. Yeah,
Is it?
I really felt that one scene when I think it was Dax Shepard's character gets shot in the foot through the toes specifically, I believe.
Oh yeah, he like limps away.
Yeah, and he makes a noise, something along like God. Man,
Some of the dialogue, it was hard not to laugh at, like the line from uh Emil Hirsch, who plays Danny Dietz. He's like, "They shot my fucking hand."
did I just get shot in the head?
That was that was another um moment in the book that was very powerful that I think was done well in this film was the moment where Marcus is looking at Axe and he's like, "Yeah, you got shot in the head." Like that was, uh, according to Marcus, that was a real thing that occurred prior to them getting separated. Which I mean, I don't even know. Like obviously, it's not impossible to operate as a human being with a head injury, but that seemed like a pretty severe head injury to still be functioning through.
Yeah, that takes. And man, if I were shot in the head, I'd just be done.
I'd probably just lie down and quit right there.
Just take a little nap.
I think it's called a forever nap at that point, but
And
I would.
who were they after? Some high-ranking Taliban guy.
Yeah, I've Ahmed Shah. I think he was
Yeah,
a
Ahmed Shah.
uh, Taliban leader. Which that was another kind of big difference is um, the final battle scene in this movie where like the Apaches come in and like do their gun run and like save Marcus from like death at the very last second, and it's like very, you know, yeah, Sparta, like that kind of deal. Um, that didn't happen. Um, the At this time, the Taliban didn't really have the resources or the ability to expend the political capital to wipe out an entire village. Like they wanted Marcus Luttrell very badly, but they weren't going to wipe out an entire Afghan village to get this dude. Um, but there is in the book there was multiple instances where they tried uh, negotiating to get him or what have you, and that's where the whole like village protecting him thing comes into big play, where they told the Taliban to pound sand basically, and they would end up paying for it after the fact. Like Gulab had his home attacked a couple of times after this instance or this incident, but um, yeah, there. Don't get me wrong, it was entertaining and impressive, but like the idea of the villagers like carrying Marcus up the side of a mountain to meet a helicopter, I think would be just as inspiring or entertaining as Apache Gun Run. But, Hollywood is what it is.
Oh yeah, it is what it is. And then yeah, we got that heartwarming scene where he asks them to take him with, and then they say no, but then he says thank you to the dude and hugs the kid.
If I remember correctly, I think in real life, Gulab was allowed to go on the helicopter.
No
But,
security checks.
well, I think it was just a play by ear decision, I guess. I mean, he did hand deliver this dude that the Taliban wanted alive, so
It's true, man. Yeah, the way they did the injuries. I know I'm getting back to this. We're very good in this. They did very good in that department.
no,
Makes me
they
not want to get shot.
yeah, no. It
There goes my weekend plans.
Oh, were you just going to take the 12 gauge behind the shed and take off a couple of more toes, or
Yep. See if I can dodge it this time. Mm. So what are you drinking tonight?
so from the Denver Beer Company, the same brewery that brought you Princess Yum Yum, um, I am drinking Peach Daddy, which
Jesus Christ.
is a peach cobbler ale.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, it tastes quite good.
Huh. Well, I'm drinking what the hell is this even called? Kickball Sour Ale from Remedy Brewing Company in Sioux Falls. It is a sour ale with raspberry. And you know me, I love my sour beer and I love my fruity beer. And it's not berry noir, but I'll have to make do.
That's fair.
Mm. So sugary you can feel your teeth.
That that doesn't sound like a good selling point.
No, it's not. Man, I wish Matthew was here again so he could give us that look of English disgust about our beer choices.
Yeah, I felt kind of ashamed after that episode.
You shouldn't, because this is America and we'll drink what we want. America.
Fuck
But
yeah.
but speaking of America, I did like a lot of the one-liners in this where they're exhausted and on that false peak of the mountain. What are you gonna do when you get home? I'm gonna crawl into bed and watch Anchorman. Perfectly dates the movie to 2005, by the way.
That was a great reference, especially,
It was. Because yeah, and people were still, well, okay, they're still quoting it today, but there was like at the height of its quotability in 2005.
right. There is a lot of great just one-off conversations in this, like Michael Murphy uh, talking to Marcus about Arabian horses.
It's $15,000.
It's like your wife's got good taste.
And the naming of the things involved in the mission, like the pickup points. This one's called Coors. This one's called Bud Light. This one's called Schlickets. The target is designated as Rick James. And we got a positive idea on the red egg. The red neckerchief. Rick James, bitch.
Well, you have to imagine like how many missions do these guys go on? So like at a certain point you can't be like you can't have cool like just like super serious names like, World War II like Operation Overlord, Operation Market Garden. It you got to have fun with it at some point.
Yeah, you do. And I think we've mentioned this before, but that classic dark military humor, hence the laughing at that dude getting shot in the head.
Speaking of like that military humor, the moment that made me laugh the most in this was early on in the movie. So the real Marcus Luttrell was actually he had a cameo in this film. Um, and early on, they're all sitting around like a picnic table having lunch or whatever. And the young guy, his name is Shane Patton, and he
That's
keeps
it,
talking
Shane
about,
Patton.
yeah, he keeps talking about, he's like, man, am I going to get to go on this mission? Like, am I going to get selected? And they're just giving him shit, and they all stand up, and there's one character who is unnamed, and that's the real Marcus Luttrell. He's like, you know what you can do to start fitting in around here? And Shane's like, what? And he just like knocks over all the coffee cups that are on the table. He's like, clean this shit up, and he just stands up and walks away.
Did Marcus Luttrell play anyone in particular in this movie, or did he just appear?
I think he just appears. I'm not 100% certain, but he has another moment uh, right before the Chinook gets shot down. He's at the very back, so like when all the like quick reaction force Navy SEALs, when they're about to rappel in to save their buddies, it zooms in and it shows like him in the back of the helicopter, and then
Yeah.
it shows the helicopter exploding. I thought that was a very good kind of symbolic gesture because in his book, and he's become a public speaker and has been very active in the veteran community, and like has been big on supporting people through PTSD and whatnot. He talks about, obviously this is a super traumatic event and he went through a lot with this, but, having him be on that helicopter, I think is a good symbology of basically like him feeling like, it's a good representation of him losing everything that day.
Man, but I don't know how I feel about having the guy that was actually there die in the movie. That feels kind of, hmm, that's a choice.
It is a choice, but if I remember correctly, they like Peter Berg, like the production of this film was very heavily influenced by, or if not heavily influenced, they sought a lot of opinions from the family members during the production of this. So I think that's where you can get away with that, is because, if they were going to bring something up, and like if any of the family members said no, like that's not right, I would almost guarantee that Marcus wouldn't have taken part in that scene.
Yeah.
But did you notice the other spectacular cameo in this film?
Don't tell me you were in this.
No.
Oh, who was it?
Are you familiar with a guy named Dan Bilzerian?
Wait, Dan Bilzerian. Dan Bilzeri. No, Armenian American poker player. I don't keep up with that kind of
Oh
thing.
my. Okay, well after this I'm going to have to send you some reference materials. Anywho, Dan Bilzerian, as Jack mentioned, is a poker player. He is a, what's the best way to put this? He is a professional douchebag.
Wow,
Um,
it looks like it.
so he is a social media personality currently. Very big Instagram following. Um, very much like look at me with my bitches on a yacht kind of guy.
Sorry, I just read a certain part. I'll continue.
Um, he made a lot of money uh doing World Series of Poker. He himself was in the Navy. He went through BUDS, which is the Navy SEAL training entry level training program, two or three times and washed out all three, two or three. Every time he tried doing it, he washed out. And that was his entire Navy career, was attempting to become a SEAL, and then he left once his term was up. And it's hilarious because you can look up interviews with him where he makes the statement like, "Yeah, did like I did buds two or three times, and like I probably spent more time in buds than any other person. Like I am a Navy SEAL." But he never got his trident. He was not like, never got the sign off. Like he's just a dude who flunked out of the class multiple times. Um, but that kind of tells you the mentality that this dude has. Is like, you can't tell me I'm not a Navy SEAL. I did this three times. No, you failed it three times. That's what you did,
How you spin it, I guess.
right? But he's also, oh my god, this dude is a piece of work. He was. Do you remember the Las Vegas country musical shooting? The Mandalay
Yes, I
Bay
do.
incident.
That's the part I was reading about how he demanded that cop's gun.
So there's a whole nother side tangent to that. But anyways, yeah, during the Mandalay Bay shooting, he goes up to a cop and is like, "Hey, give me your gun. I'm also a cop." And this Las Vegas Metro PD dude is like, "I don't fucking know you. Get the fuck away from me." Like, um, that was actually, there was a whole scam. I forgot where it was. It was either Nevada or Utah or something, where basically there was this air quotes police department in a town of like 100 people, and essentially what the chief of police was doing was a lot, and it like a lot of celebrities took advantage of this. Basically, they would pay this one man police department a fee or make a donation or whatever. And then they would get put on as, again, air quotes, reserve police officers and get um, law enforcement credentials. It was basically this overcomplicated way of being able to conceal carry wherever you wanted, essentially. Which is where Dan Blazarian comes in with this "I'm a cop" thing. It's like, no, you're not. Again, you just paid some dude an undisclosed amount of money to have a fucking ID card. Like, but he is in this film for all of 3 seconds, and he sued this film, the producers of this film, because it is reported that he paid somewhere in the ballpark of like $1 million to be in it. Like, he heard that this movie was going to be a thing, and he's like, I want to be in it. And so he made a massive payment to be in it. They shot scenes with him, and none of them made it to the final cut of the film. But the original deal that he was supposed to be was like 8 minutes of screen time and like so many lines of dialogue, which didn't happen, and thank God it didn't. But yeah,
yeah, this guy, he's something.
it is. I cannot even scratch the surface of all the stupidity that is this one particular dude, but there's your little tidbit. Was the guy who couldn't become a Navy SEAL also couldn't even pay his way into acting like one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll send you some YouTube materials to
Yeah, there's
look
a
up.
lot of douchebags in the walls of society today, much like rats.
And there certainly is.
I'm trying to think about anything else I wanted to bring up about this movie. The score of the movie, that when him and Jax, was it? The dude that got shot in the head.
Just Axe, not Jax.
Axe. I thought it was okay. Axe. When him and Axe saw that helicopter coming in, they're like, "Yay, we're saved!" And then the stab of music, RPG, it blows up, and then they're like, "Oh."
Yeah, the score of this film was definitely a little over dramatic. Like like at the beginning of the film when they're just like at the military base, and it sounds like the opening to Friday Night Lights. So like, do do do. I'm like, Jesus Christ, guys! Like, could we not get something a little more like upbeat, like blood pumping? I guess, but like, did it? I don't know.
Yeah, like get some rock going.
Yeah, like these are supposed to be hard guys. Ugh, steroids. No,
Yeah,
wait.
America.
Oh well. But I liked the film when it came out, and I still like it. Um, I think this film definitely falls into that pork chop film category where it's like, I will watch this. I would watch this film if I had the house to myself for a weekend, and I would, you know, cook myself up a nice dinner for myself and just relax and enjoy it. I don't think it's a film that I would be like, yeah, this is what I want to do for movie night with the friends over. Like, but it's definitely it's an enjoyable film, and it's a
It is.
genuinely an interesting story, and I highly recommend reading the book or even following Marcus Luttrell on the
But
social medias because he's lived a very interesting life since this has occurred. The He actually has two books. His second book, uh, the crazy thing is so all of this happened. He recuperated, and then he did another. Like he went back. He did a tour in Iraq after all this happened, and that's what his second book is about. Is his follow up tour, and
Hmm.
like that is insane to me. Um, but he's a hard individual, But even
Yeah.
since his military career, he's lived a very interesting life.
I would read his book, but DP, I can't read.
Yeah, that's fine. If you ever come out here and
Just have pictures.
yeah, a couple.
Oh.
It's one of those books where it's like a whole bunch of words and then there's a couple of pages of pictures in the middle and then a whole bunch of words again.
Ooh.
I know. If you ever came out here and visited, I can take you to the Danny Dietz Memorial
Okay.
because he's from Colorado, so his his grave is at Fort Logan Cemetery, which is not far from me, and then uh, he has a statue, and then there's also like a memorial marker for the entire Operation Red Wings. Um, Near Littleton, Colorado. I've been there a couple of times, and it's quite nice.
I really should take you up on that. Been meaning to get back to Colorado sometime.
Well, there's always a place for you in my heart. I mean, my bed. I mean, God damn it.
Yeah, yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah. Okay, I think it's about time to rate this thing, and I'll let you know what you can choose this week.
Chickens. No, ducks.
Ducks. Oh yes,
Yeah, bring me a knife, and then he brings him a duck. No, not a duck. God damn it.
I like ducks. It's a good metric.
Yeah,
What do you
name
what do you
one
give
thing
it?
they can't be used for. See, you can't do it. Um, so how many ducks do you give this movie?
My heart wants to give this a 4 duck rating, but it's I don't know. I am torn. Like I love this film. I greatly enjoy it. I also there's there's storytelling elements that could have been done that would have made this way better. There's they could have changed up the score a little bit. Um I don't know. I want to give it a 4, but a 4 doesn't feel appropriate. Um I'll give it I will give it 3 whole ducks and a headless duck. So three whole ducks and a
Eh,
decapitated duck.
I'll
So
give it
like a
4 ducks.
like a 3.75 duck rating.
So, God damn it. The tomometer for this movie, the critic rating is 75%, and the audience score is 87%.
I could definitely see how audience score would be that high.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think my 4 out of 5 rating is apt.
Alrighty. Well, I think it's time to pick our next film. Jack, what do we have on the docket for next week?
Well, on the docket we got Star Trek 6. Right. You can edit this part out. I'm genuinely curious. You want me to say Star
Yeah,
Trek 6?
yeah, Star Trek 6.
Yeah. Star Trek 6. Undiscovered country, right? What the fuck's the title of this?
It's Star Trek 6 colon
Oh,
something
shut
something.
up. The Undiscovered Country. Star Trek 6, The Undiscovered Country. This is requested by one of our fans, and we live to please our fans.
I cannot wait to discuss the merits of this as a film.
Oh,
If you can't
don't act
tell by
so
the
excited.
if you can't, what? How am I supposed to understand it? We haven't seen 1 through 5.
We don't need we don't even need to watch it. We just kind of need to understand the basic story of Star Trek, I guess.
Like I
He hey,
understand.
he
I
our
understand the
beloved
simple.
fan told my
Go ahead.
beloved fan or our sorry, communism, our beloved fan told us that we don't have to watch the other 5 to understand this. We just yeah, I need to understand basic Star Trek, which you you've engaged in pop culture in the last couple decades, so you've absorbed at least
Yes.
some of it by osmosis.
Yeah, and I've watched some of like I've watched a few episodes from each of the Star Trek series, and I've seen two of the like modern adaptations of it. So I get the basic premise of Star Trek. It's just I feel like I might be missing something somewhere along the way.
Well, we'll see next week. Tune in next week for Armchair Commanders podcast.
I'm going to have you record that, and that can be our exit from now on.
Armchair Commanders podcast.
Get him, Agnew! Arrgh!
The headless body of Spiro Agnew.
All right. Well, if you enjoyed the show, please leave a review. The stars do matter. If you want to engage with us or get additional content, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at the Armchair Commanders Podcast. We are also on YouTube under the History Apprentice channel. If you know anybody who likes war movies or needs a new podcast, please show them our show. We'd love to have our stuff listened to for once. Jack, do you have anything else?
I do not.
Well, then, until next time, I've been John,
And I'm Jack.
and we'll catch you next week.